104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Our friend Matt Verderame joins us right now. He's from Fansided, covering the NFL, getting us ready for the draft. First New York team on the clock, which means they're the worst in New York, the Jets. What do you think Gang Green's going to do with that pick?
I think they're going to take the best defensive player available. I know there's been some talk about maybe they'll look at a quarterback, but to me, that doesn't make any sense really for them. They've got a couple of young guys, including Hackenberg, who was taken in the second round last year. I think if you're the Jets, this team's in a full rebuild at this point. So if there's a guy like a Malik Hooker, if Jamal Adams gets there, especially if Marshawn Lattimore out of Ohio State's there, I think he's the best corner in the draft. If the Jets can start to rebuild that side of the ball, especially with a defensive-minded head coach in Todd Bowles, I think that's the way they're going to go.
Do they have enough pieces to move out of that spot and possibly move down the draft and get more picks later on in later rounds?
I think they'd love to. It's such a deep draft. There's probably 50 players right now who have legitimate first-round grades. And so I think if the Jets could, I'm sure they'd love to move them. They want to acquire as many picks as possible because, frankly, they need them. The problem is I don't know if teams are going to be moving up very aggressively in this draft because of that same reason. They're not going to want to give up picks. So, the Jets, I think, are probably going to end up picking at 6, but I'm sure they're going to explore any opportunity they have to try to move back maybe 4 or 5 spots.
Matt Verderame with us right now, covers the NFL for Fansided, getting us ready for the NFL draft. Let's stay in order, even though the Bills are usually our third. They're next in line. So let's go Buffalo Bills. What do you think they're going to do?
They're an interesting team. I mean, they were able to keep Tyrod Taylor on the restructured deal. I think they try to give him another offensive weapon. I think they've got to try to get somebody there that can play opposite Sammy Watkins. Right now, they have no number 2 receiver. Robert Woods went to the Rams in free agency, haven't replaced him. I think a guy, like John Ross or Corey Davis, I actually like Davis. I think he is the better fit for them out of Western Michigan. I think he's the best receiver in this class. Ross, of course, broke the record for the 40 time at the Combine, but I think he's probably going to go a little later. I think it'd be a little bit of a reach for Buffalo. I like them to take either that or if they want to go tight end, O.J. Howard is an incredible prospect at that position, and so they could go a little 2 tight end set there. Something that I expect they'll do a lot of with Sean McDermott as the head coach.
I really like that Corey Davis pick. I know D.D. Westbrook was the one who got the Heisman hype, but Davis and Ross really helped those teams out, and they played, like you touched on, Western Michigan and Washington. But because they took Sammy Watkins years ago and put so much into trading up to get a wide receiver, does that scare off franchises going after a similar position years later?
Well, we saw the Detroit Lions take about 10 receivers in a row. Obviously, it didn't work out too well for them. But no, in all seriousness, I think the Bills at this point, look, this is a team that's not made the playoffs since 1999. And so they need to draft a mixture of the best player available with a little bit of need sprinkled in. And I think Davis is that guy. Yes, it would be a couple wide receivers in the first round this decade, and typically teams don't double dip in that fashion at a skill position. But if you want Sammy Watkins to ever reach his potential, if you want Tyrod Taylor to ever reach his potential, you're going to need more than one receiver on this team that can do something, especially with New England sitting there now with Stephon Gilmore and Malcolm Butler. You're going to have to fight a little fire with fire.
Matt, but wouldn't it be perfect now that Rex Ryan's with ESPN that if they go with Mike Williams, the Clemson receiver, knowing how much Rex loves Clemson?
You know what? I think if they can twist the knife a little bit on Rex any way possible, they would do it. And Williams is another guy, by the way. He is a tremendous talent. It would not be a huge reach if they took Mike Williams. So, this is a very good receiver class. There's probably a good 7 or 8 receivers who are going to go in the top 60 picks. And I think the Bills really need to get one. They cannot go into this season with Sammy Watkins and the rest of that receiving core. It would be underwhelming, to say the least.
Getting us ready for the NFL draft from Fanside, our buddy Matt Verderame with us. So, all right, so there's only one left, Big Blue. They're picking a little later because they actually were good enough to play postseason football. What do you see them doing?
I think they've got to go offensive line, if at all possible. And unfortunately for them, this is not a great offensive line draft. As loaded as it is, that's one of the few positions where really they have to pick and choose. The good news is for them, they're drafting early 20s. It's an area where most people think that's where those first couple of offensive linemen are going to go off the board. I think Forrest Lamp would be a really good pick for them. He's a guy who can play inside. He played tackle in college, so he's got experience there. I think a lot of people think he's he's going to end up being a guard, and if you look at it that way, then he's top guard out there. Ben Feeney out of Indiana, I think, is more of an early second-round pick. But if you're the Giants, look, Eli Manning, he's not getting any younger. You have terrific receivers around him. They could go with a running back. If they wanted to go skill position, they could say, hey, if Christian McCaffrey's there, we're going to take him. If Dalvin Cook's there and we're comfortable with the bevy of red flags that he has, we take him. But I think ultimately that offensive line has too many holes for them to pass up. And I think if Lamp is there or Ryan Ramczyk's there out of Wisconsin, I think those are two guys that they would really target.
Would you consider it a busted pick if they went with the Miami tight end David Njoku, even though he has publicly said he'd love to be the next tight end for the Giants?
I think it would be an interesting pick. Look, I think the Giants, my only qualm about tight end with the Giants is just that they have so many receiving weapons already. They just took Sterling Shepard last year. And of course, they let go of Victor Cruz, but they got Brandon Marshall to replace him, and of course Beckham as well. I don't know if you're the Giants at this point. Is tight end, and they have a need at tight end, so it wouldn't be a bad pick by any stretch. And Njoku is a very talented player, tore it up in the ACC last year. I just wonder, is that more of a need than offensive line? But if they have Njoku rated much higher than any of these offensive linemen, then it would behoove them to take the best player at a position.
Give us your top three quarterbacks, because this quarterback position's been all over the place. I know it's not one of the better quarterback classes of the past, but top three for you.
I like Mahomes more than anybody else in the class. I think he's got the highest upside. I think he's raw. I don't think he's going to start this year. I don't think he should, and I don't think he can even really play this year. His footwork is atrocious, but his arm is on the same level of a Brett Favre. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Brett Favre, but he's got a cannon similar to him. And if you look at Favre's career, he went to Atlanta, he sat for a year, got traded to Green Bay, and of course the rest is history. I think Mahomes, he's got to find the right system. But I think if he went to an Arizona, I think that'd be a great fit. If he fell a little bit, went to Kansas City with Andy Reid, I think that'd be a great fit. And then behind him, I like Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's a good player. I think there's a little bit of a ceiling on him, though. I think he's like an Andy Dalton type. And then Deshaun Watson, to me, reminds me a lot of Donovan McNabb. And so I think he's going to be a really nice player in the NFL. I think he could be a franchise quarterback. But again, all these quarterbacks, they all have to find the right system. If they don't find the right system, none of them have the talent that's going to just overflow to the point that they can overcome weaknesses around them.
Now, Matt Verderame with us from Fansided. Last time we saw you was in Houston for the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes was there. He was walking around. Gaz and I left with the same impression. Like, we looked at him, and he just physically did not look like a starting NFL quarterback to us. Is that just us being fools and putting way too much into what a guy looks like in a suit?
No, not necessarily. Look, I mean, his height and weight, it's good, but it's he's not Roethlisberger. He's not going to be that size. Now, I look at it, and to me, when I evaluate a quarterback, all that I'm concerned about is show me his accuracy, show me the film. What does his footwork look like? Does he have enough arm strength? I think Mahomes checked those boxes. Other than the footwork, I think that's something he's clearly going to have to fix. That he's got very bad footwork, but he was extremely accurate in college with it, even in that air raid offense at Texas Tech. So I think Mahomes is going to have to get a little stronger, a little bigger. I don't think that's a bad observation at all. But it all goes back into he needs to sit a year. If some team drafts him and tries to stick him into the starting lineup week one, it's not going to end well. And I think that's something the teams just need to be prepared for, that, hey, if we take one of these quarterbacks, they need to sit for a year, and they need to get better in a litany of different areas.
We just posted this question online at facebook.com/1045. The team trying to figure out who's the best overall player in this year's NFL draft class. For you, who's just the flat-out best player?
I think it's Myles Garrett. I think he's clearly the number one prospect. He's just been unbelievable. Whether you look at the film, whether you look at his pro day numbers, at the combine, he is really, and they ironically went to the same school. He reminds me so much in a way of Von Miller. He is a dominant player on the edge. And I think if you're the Browns, look, we all make fun of the Browns because of their history here with just whiffing on high picks. But if they take him and it doesn't work out, well, that would be an all-time stunner. I couldn't blame Cleveland. They need to take him number one. And then, you just have to simply hope there that he can grow into what you expect him to be. The other guy I really like is Jamal Adams. I think Jamal Adams is an Eric Berry type of safety. I think he can do it a little bit of everything. He's somebody that when you watch him, he is just an unbelievable talent, and I'd be shocked if he got out of the top 6.
Now, Matt Verderame, we find out that there's a new number 1 draft pick in your household too, huh?
Yeah, yep. Fiance's pregnant, due middle of October, and so first kid. Really excited about that, and I'm sure that'll be a little chaotic during football season, but that's okay. I don't mind that kind of chaos.
Drinks on us if we can get you to Minnesota for the Super Bowl.
Hey, I will be there. I will be there.
Nice.
So I will remember that. You all owe me drinks.
Congratulations, and we appreciate your help. I'm sure we'll hit you up closer to the draft.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.